Hello everybody, James here. Today I have a video about my 3D printed army for one-page rules. So I am currently in the process of printing out a nice large army for one-page rules using a line of miniatures by somebody called KMFP. They have a Patreon and they're also on my mini factory. These are models that are primarily used for 6 to 8mm epic battles. However, they have also scaled really nicely into 28mm. So I have been printing them off initially as Battle Brothers, but I am actually going to create a whole new army list called Orbital Knights, which is what these guys are being called on my mini factory and the Patreon. And I just wanted to go over some of the models. So the first thing to actually note is before we get started, this is actually using a FDM printer, not a resin one, which is what you would most commonly use for printing miniatures. There's to say, FDM printers aren't known for their high quality on the small scale, but FDM is much better price-wise. And because they're very good at functional prints, anything large like vehicles, for example, should be much better on an FDM printer. So that was my initial idea behind it, in addition to terrain. So I bought initially some MDF terrain, and I thought it was going to be good. It is really good value, but I was getting really frustrated building it. So I thought, hey, well, what if I get something like a 3D printer? A lot of people are using this for terrain creation. And, one step further, and you've got miniatures instead, so tanks, and then smaller stuff. Now, there's been a few videos online about doing miniatures on FDM, but they're years out of date, and I think the last couple of years there've been like really good software updates for all of the splicers. Now, a splicer is what converts a 3D model into a printable format. So the way a printer works is usually on a layer. So regardless of whether or not that's resin or FDM. So the only main difference between them is the way that the line is done. So if a resin printer, you have a panel that basically gives the image of that current layer, and then the resin cures over that, and then you build up and up. And it's all done at the same time. So anything on that layer, so if you build the entire plate up of miniatures, that's just as quick to do an entire build plate as it is to do a single miniature, which is why doing things like infantry is something that is really quick compared to FDM. So in FDM, it would have to travel everywhere or do them one at a time, and that's a lot slower. Another downside of resin, which is why I don't have one, is they smell, they're toxic, and they're messy. So I'm in a shared house, so all of those three things is not something I am willing to put up with I only have my bedroom to actually have the printer in, so you know, basically no ventilation, there's no garage or anything like that that could be used for it. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell. So with FDM printing, what happens is it picks a spot and then it does the line with the molten plastic, like so, and it just goes through the entire layer. When it gets to the end, it goes up a little bit and then it does the next layer. And so, but that's not, it doesn't smell, and it doesn't, and it's not toxic. So that's like two really big boons in my opinion. It is still messy, but in a different way. So resin printers, it's mainly having to deal with the washing of it, which goes hand in hand with the toxicity. And you know, there's a lot of safety measures that you've got to have, lots more equipment to do it safely, and I just don't have the space. But the messiness for FDM is what you'd see in my bin here. So it's basically this stuff here, all of your supports. Okay, that's all trash. You can't really do anything with this. Right, so yeah, off to the side here, we've got the first 5 models that I did when I decided I wanted to do miniature printing. These are not 28, these are about 20. This was while I was trying to get the sizes right, and I did these specifically as objective markers, so that if they were wrong, then they weren't anything important, and they do act quite nicely as objective markers. So I'm sorry that my camera is not the greatest. I am just using my webcam, which is the Logitech 920 something. But here we have some of the miniatures. Let me get some on my lap. Okay, so let's go with the basic guys first. This is a normal marine. And so that's not the greatest quality, but basically what you're supposed to be seeing is a very smooth print. FDM is pretty bad on the bottom layers, as in if you turn it upside down it's quite bad because you're supporting it with something and then you've got to break that support off. But because you're not going to be playing with it upside down, you're going to be doing it from, you know, the normal orientation, you never see them. You only see what's on the top layer. And if you've got good enough settings, a good enough printer, which my printer is an Anycubic Viper, and that is a budget printer with some additions. So it's got things like auto bed leveling and stuff like that, which you know, I could have just gone for something like the Ender 3 that was cheaper with the same sort of spec line for things that, you know, matter for printing, but because I'm new to 3D printing, I wanted the most convenience that I could. So in this case, bed leveling I know was a big one that people get annoyed with. So yeah, this is that. But yeah, from a top-down view though, so it looks very smooth, especially after a spray. fact, let me see if I can get this a bit closer. I mean, you're just going into my... There you go, that's probably a bit better. I really do wish I had more light, but I don't, unfortunately. But yes, it looks very smooth, very crisp. This is using a 0.01 layer height and a 0.48 layer thickness. So, and to some people that may seem like pretty big. So by default, the tip on an FDM printer for most printers, especially at this sort of level, is 0.4, and that relates to the thickness, not the layer. Layer is done by the Z-axis motors and how good they are and how precise they are. So I tried doing 0.05, but it was not able to do it. The Anycubic should be capable, but I think I need to go through firmware and actually change some settings in it, which is for more advanced users, and I'm not advanced yet, so I don't want to even think about it at this point. I'm fine with the 0.1. So yeah, something like this mini here takes probably about 1 hour 15 minutes, which as you can imagine, you know, an entire army, that's many hours. However, when you consider how long it may take for, say, a unit to arrive in the post, yes, pre-made models like Games Workshop models, you could buy like a bulk of things in one go, and it could be like a 2-day shipping. You then have to assemble it all. So 2 days plus assembly, which let's just say you had 10 of these guys, that's like Tactical Marines of Games Workshop. 2 days for shipping, you know, on a good day, and then probably, I don't know, 5 hours to clip them off the sprues, clean them up, assemble them. So, you know, it's not an insignificant amount of time still. Whereas these, they're all pre-assembled typically. I mean, this is like all one piece. And it is on a resin base, by the way. That's not by KMFP, that is just a regular resin base from Tiny Worlds. But yeah, 1 hour 15 minutes, not the greatest, you know, not the worst, sorry. And especially the fact that you're not doing these one at a time. I have actually decided to print these off in about 5 guys at a time. At least my new ones will be. My past ones were 3, but I can easily like do 5 guys on a single plate in a reasonable amount of time. So that would take me basically, if I set the printer before I went to work, by the time I got back from work, I'd have 5 guys on the table. I do that the next day, boom, that's another 5. I've got my 10, and I've got no assembly required. There is a cleanup, of course. Cleanup probably takes about 5 minutes per. So an extra hour if we want to be extra safe and careful. Okay, so all in all, probably a net positive. Until you get to the pricing, which is ridiculously cheap. So I think I've now gotten to the point where my miniatures have exceeded the cost of the printer. So my printer, I want to say, costed like 300 and something. But you know what, give me just a moment. Let me see if I can find the actual cost. Anycubic. There you go, $320. So that's, I mean, what is $320? So $29. Dollars to pound, £260 with free shipping. And yeah, I mean that's absolutely crazy. So yeah, the guy itself, in terms of filament cost, costed me probably about 4 to 6 pence of material. Okay, so basically by the time you have printed out enough miniatures, like my army is what, if I had bought Games Workshop miniatures for the same units, I would have definitely exceeded that amount by now, and I've only just gotten started. So let's just start getting the entire unit, because I feel like I'm waffling a bit. Let's see, that was part of that unit, as was that, as was this guy here, this was my leader, and that was my medic. So this unit here and my commander that was actually going with them in my first game. I had my first game with a full 3D printed army last Tuesday. Today is Sunday, and yeah, I basically printed these out the week before, did some spraying on them, and then did the black shoulder pads to get some sort of definition on them. Eventually they'll look like this. It's my commander, so it's a very simple colour scheme, where it's red, black. Oh, that was pretty tough. And a bit of Boltgun silver as well. Very simple, just 3 colours, bit of purple on like the command units, and that's all table ready and looks really, really smart. So that's one unit. This is the giant banner bearer, which in a futuristic setting you may think is a bit weird for those who don't know wargaming, but it makes sense from a 40k perspective anyway. So let's just move those along. So that's that guy. This is my medic. I really like this model. Giant little medical device on top. It's got this little bag. This is a laser cannon guy, underarm. There's several variants of heavy weapons. It'll take you a long time to actually make a duplicate. This is a little plasma cannon. Which is interesting as well, like 40k, they're coming out with even less posable minis, but yeah, even though these are non-posable, there are so many variations. Then we've got a missile launcher, overarm. This is for my support squad. I've decided to go support squad as overarm weapons instead of underarm to differentiate them. You may see some little things on the top here where I've actually snipped it. I decided there was a little antenna on the top of each of these overarm variants. I'm just going to paint. I clipped them off because one of them broke, and quite frankly I didn't see a reason for them, so now new models are just going to get snipped, so I'll just go and repaint those soon. But This is a heavy blaster, a missile launcher, a heat cannon. Again, we're going to use a KMFP names if we can. So these guys have blasters. Then we've got. Just want to see if I can move these all in so you can actually see how much I've printed. Then I did some of these big guys here. These are heavy armor. So much bigger by comparison. Going on much bigger bases. Some of these weapons are quite cool. I found that the scaling for these are much better between each different types of model. So this plasma cannon, just find it here. Where is it? Here it is. So they are very close inside, almost identical. In fact, I think they may even be identical, except for how they're being held on by the miniature. That's 2 units. So on Grimdark Future, the sort of heavy armor is in groups of 3 instead of 5, like Games Workshop. And got like a missile launcher array on his shoulders with these storm blasters. So every now and again there is a weird thing on the print that doesn't want to do, like this guy, the bottom half of his pistol actually is missing. However, when you actually have it on the tabletop, again, from the top-down view, you simply cannot see it. So I didn't bother to print out a new one. So that's those guys. So I did 2 units of those. I then did a unit of assault, or I think that's close combat unit with jump packs, with jetpacks, and they came out pretty well as well. This is one of the leaders with an axe and a shield, and I've probably had more issues with these guys than any other model. Their jump packs have some issues. So this one here, for example, it broke midway through. You can see a line in that bottom section there. It just broke off. But I think I've been able to salvage it. It doesn't look great, but again, in the same way that the pistol, it's not really noticeable. It's not really noticeable there either. So I simply glued it and it all is good. But a couple of other things on the jetpacks also had some trouble. So on this leader, it's missing a bit at the very bottom one. So, but that only happened on 2. But that's still, I would say, a pretty big failure rate though between 5 models. So yeah, but still, there's a lot more to, a lot more of these I want to build. So we'll see how those go. It might have been a fluke. Right, that's those 2 foams done. much more exciting things now. Alright, bikes. So this is actually one of the heavy combat bikes with a heavy weapon, in this case a heat cannon, but you can see that these are much bigger compared to the regular blasters, but they are to scale, so that guy is the same size as the guy that's actually riding it. Whereas with 40k at the moment, they are such old sculpts that they are probably 50% difference in size. Also, the bikes for 40k are just tiny. So these guys are overlapping on like a 60mm oval. I think it's 60mm anyway. But yeah, fantastic quality. Very big, very bulky. Love it. So we got that guy, and then I've got two more. Then we have, I'll actually show you, this here is actually a the only non-KMFP model. This is actually from Cromlac. It's a resin piece that they sell. But this guy here is a servitor that is by KMFP. Pretty nifty little dude. He's not actually he's sprayed, but he's not washed with contrast yet. So this is Mephiston red, and then a contrast Blood Angels red all over, and that is on a nice big base there. This is the weapon platforms, and the guns are actually in a foam insert that I haven't gotten out, but I actually had two of these for my game the other day, like so. And then I've got some new things that I've been building. So this was actually my 3,000 points for Grimdark Future, and it's only up from here. So I then started a combat walker, like so, and this guy is really great because he is magnetized. How great is that? Oh, I've got some more light now. Maybe it was clouds getting in the way, but these are actually really strong magnets. These are 20 by 10 millimeter. It's a big drill type weapon, and then the body is also magnetized. And just the way that the legs were, I decided to put this guy on a large oval base as well, instead of one of those ones. It's much bigger than a regular Games Workshop Dreadnought. That is a comparison. Much taller. And this is magnetized as well, so yeah, the body on the Games Workshop one is taller, but the legs are much shorter. That's not magnetized. Not going to break that off, but yeah, much taller legs, which is great. He's not going to be called Stumpy anymore, that's for certain. These are actually using much less strong magnets. So that is absolutely great. So I'll be using him on my next game, hopefully next Tuesday. I also have some other weapons. So that is a heavy plasma cannon, and this here is a missile launcher. So, and I can just keep on printing extra weapons and magnetizing them. So that is great. So I'm gonna put that. So this, yeah, this 3,000 points. I think that would come to just under 300 by itself. But now I've got to put the weapon options there as well. Now the combat walker and onwards is just flat value, or at least definitely after this. So the next big thing is vehicles. So this is quite cool. This is the first of many, actually not many tanks. Tanks in Grimdark Future are actually very expensive. But this actually took me a work day. And as you can see, it's hollow in the inside. The way that works, for again those who don't know much about printers, is you'll get something like this. So this is called a tree support. It looks very ugly, but it's actually very good. So basically it goes like this as it's being built up. It doesn't need a lot of support on the bottom because it's not supporting anything yet. And then as it gets higher and higher, it will start to branch out like a tree until it's a near solid piece, allowing you to do the top section. So yeah, this is the body of the tank. The sides are going to be magnetized, but I've actually run out of magnets. But I have magnetized the first turret. So this is the turret. This is a double auto cannon, and it looks a bit messy underneath, but it doesn't matter because you never see it. And it just goes on there, and the magnet, as I said, keeps it very solid, very stuck together. And now, literally, as I have as I've been talking, my latest print has finished. I have started on some artillery tanks. So this is a giant rocket launcher that basically goes on top of one of these tanks. I'm going to be doing probably one of each type of tank. There's you've got siege tank, you've got these battle tanks, and then you've got the artillery tanks, and they are subtly different. Like this is more armoured, but the artillery is on the same shell, but it doesn't have any of the extra armour. So I'll do one of these, one of the artillery, one of the siege tanks. It's actually, the way that the siege tanks are done, unfortunately, is it's more of a one piece. So I will actually be doing one of each of the siege tanks, and they won't be magnetized. But as I said, they only take a work day. So if I put them on at around 8 o'clock, like right before I go off to work, by the time I get home at around 5:30, it should be done. No, what am I saying? So not a work, a day, a half day, as in like 12-14 hours. Sorry, the tanks won't get done, but most of everything else will. Sorry, so things like a unit of 3 bikes, for example, a combat walker with weapon options, like 5 of these guys, 3 of these guys. They're all going to be done by the time I get home. These guys, I'll put them on at around 8, and it will be around 11 to 12 o'clock before it finishes, but then it allows me to go to bed. The weapon options will have to wait until another print cycle, so that's just the whole, that is around 14 hours. I'm in the process of trying to get that timing down, but it's quite difficult to do that because you won't know how long it's going to take until it actually does print. So it's actually my biggest issue at the moment is estimated time is different than what is actually happening in real life. So let me just show you what happens with these guys. So obviously it prints on an initial layer just to make sure it's stuck down. These are tree supports, and they basically they're there to support angles that you can't just build in air, in midair. Okay, you can do things like 45-degree angles, 85 degree angles are, again, is also possible, and I've done it on a couple of prints. But yeah, if it's angled, you should be able to go off another piece. But if it's just in midair, or it's a 90-degree or higher angle, then it needs support. And what we do is we just take our clippers here, and the supports themselves are not difficult to remove. They're hollow. I don't know if you can see that. There you go. You should be able to see that it's hollow. Trying to use as the least amount of material as possible. Oh, there you go. And most of the time it just comes off in one go. So that was great. There we go. There's another piece off. And there you go. A tiny bit of interesting. I think something's off on this one. I'm not sure why. Possibly an issue with support. Didn't quite do it as it was supposed to, but it doesn't actually look bad again from the top. So I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to print it again, but I am going to note it down for the creator if it wasn't my fault with the settings. And I'm not sure if it's going to... No, the magnet I've got there is actually getting in the way, but essentially I'm just going to move that. There you go. You can see just how big this guy is. Nice and big artillery piece. That's great. I did another artillery piece before this last night, but there was an issue actually with the file, and the STL file itself didn't. It had weird angles on it. You're not going to be able to see that properly, I don't think. But yes, basically, I didn't notice it until I actually did the print. So I went back to him, and within less than an hour, he had already uploaded a fixed version. But that is actually another big artillery piece as well. And then, yes, tomorrow, being Monday, I'm going to be printing out the artillery shell on this. So the less armoured variant of this. It also has some supporting legs that are where it's supposed to like go down and support the tank, presumably to be more accurate and you know, to prevent against recoil. Well, they've got a variant where the legs are up, which is important, I think, for transporting it physically. So I'm going to be doing that variant, and yeah, around 11 o'clock tomorrow it should be done. Though from the looks of it, I don't know actually. I might create multiple tanks as well for that. I'm just wondering if there's an easier way of doing a magnet on these. I'd have to bore into this section if I wanted to do that. I mean, I suppose it's possible. I'll look into it. Either way, yeah, great things all around, and yeah, by this point, absolutely, I have made more miniatures on the 3D printer than the cost of the printer and the 2 spools that I've had. So I wasted, well, I wouldn't say wasted because it's important. Most of the first spool was for testing and for learning. It's like 1 kilogram a spool, and I got most of this. I think 2 of the bikes and like the latest stuff, so the combat walker and the tank. Everything else was actually done on the last bit of spool that I had, but I would expect to get, I don't know, easily 5-6 times this number. Like, I did a lot of printing before this just to refine my settings and learn. So yeah, all in all, would make the same purchase again. This has been a great experience. I really love the models, and yeah, it's you can do FDM printing for miniatures. I'm not going to say that you can do something like really spindly like Eldar or like Wood Elves and stuff like that. I don't think they would work very well on FDM, but I haven't tried it yet. But if you have a sufficiently bulky miniature with lots of flat and curved edges, then instead of, you know, like intricate detail, I think you will be absolutely fine. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to be doing more of these videos as I talk about better reports, probably not the reports themselves, but the post-game report, and yeah. On top of that, I said, since my last couple of videos, I've also been able to get in a lot more games of one-page rules. I've probably had about a dozen now, and I'm really liking it, and the other people are as well. So huge kudos to them. Right, bye bye. Have a good day, and I'll see you in the next video.